The Last Glimpse is Steve Krug, Jeffrey Loader, Dane Burton, and Dave Hughes, a rock band from the Quad Cities influenced by 90s era melody and emotion. Here's guitarist and vocalist Steve Krug.
We have admittedly a pretty big luxury of practicing at Skylark Recording, so we have a fully functioning recording studio at our whim at any time we're there to practice. So we've had a bit of an advantage there, and that, I mean, we can just set some mics up and hit record and try to capture the moment, you know. We're definitely pretty organic. We'll get together at least once a week, and when we're not prepping for a show, we'll start sometimes just letting loose on some ideas either that we had at home or kind of noodling at practice and, ooh, that was cool, do that again, you know. Try to get a lot of it, at least like some sort of a rough recording of it, just so that we have it around and like, oh, maybe, you know, that thing that we came up with like would fit really well in this instead. We'll get some sort of a rough idea. Maybe we've got like, oh, here's 2 parts, and we'll kind of vamp on them for a while. We'll start to make up a melody, you know, and just say some nonsense just to try to get some sense of where the lyrics might go. And sometimes it hits right away, like you'll say a phrase and then you'll start to build it around that phrase, you know, rather than coming in with an entire song written, which happens every once in a while. But for the most part, we write them all together like that, just a little bit at a time, just kind of building it up. The newest song that we've been pushing is a song called Ashes. It was definitely one written in the studio, a little differently in that it was the first time that we ever wrote the song and then had to learn it later to play it live. Most of the time, since we're writing it as a group together and kind of as we go, then by the time we're done with it, it's like we're ready to jam it out, you know. And this one, I guess it was done more in the way a lot of bigger bands when they go in the studio with nothing. I had like what ends up being the opening guitar riff of the song put together. We just kind of built it off of that. Like I want to say we kind of purposely were like, let's try to build this in here and do it differently like that, just because we'd never really done it like that before. It's a really bitter kind of, not exactly breakup song, like after breakup song, I guess. She broke up with me, and maybe a couple months later, I got a phone call from her, but it was just really random, and it was almost like, to me, it felt like, I'm making sure that you're still thinking about me, kind of a thing, you know, and just really short, and there was really no point to it. That was kind of the inspiration for it. I just kind of how I felt about that, and there was one photograph of the two of us that I had kept. That night, I put it in the sink and literally burned it. There's a line in the song about that. So kind of like, you know what, this is like my absolute closure. So yeah, it's a really bitter song. It's lyrically pretty angry, but musically it isn't, you know. I'm a really big fan of stuff that's beautifully sad, I guess you'd say. When we were recording it in the studio, there was somebody who was there was like, wow, you're really bitter, aren't you? So they picked up on it, you know. And I was like, I'm glad that you noticed, you know.
The Last Glimpse, Ashes.
Was there really ever a slip